Alright, welcome to the start of another anime review series. This is My Status as an Assassin Overseas obviously exceeds the heroes. This is the review of the very first episode of the series, The Assassin Eats Bread. Yep, we start off with our main character here, known as the Silent Assassin. His name is Akira Oda, and he's voiced by the awesome Nintendo. Which, this is interesting when it comes to him, because how is interesting? Well, how should I put this? This is like the third series in a row that, for some weird reason, I'm not sure why this is, he just happens to be here. You're like, really? Yeah, really. It is just by sheer coincidence. Yeah. I mean, the first one this year was Reborn as a Vending Machine, where he briefly took over for the main lead actor. Then it's Solo Leveling, and now this show. Also, the show is the 49th series I have checked out this year. 49. Yes, a while ago I broke the record. I think I broke it last week. Yeah, I broke it on Friday when I started up Hero in class. So, basically, you see him where he is wearing assassin gear. The scene itself reminds me a lot of Assassin's Creed, where you see this unnamed assassin. Of course, they fight, and of course, assassin loses after a pretty good battle sequence, and the sword goes right at him. He has a katana, and then we flash back to prior to this. I should point out the animation looks gorgeous in this show. Oh my gosh, they did a great job with this opening sequence. And this is done by, I kid you not, this is done by Sunrise. You're like, wait a minute, as in the company who created Mobile Suit Gundam? Yes. Yes, indeed. Yep, that's one of the more famous shows they worked on was Mobile Suit Gundam. And I think they worked on the show for the longest time. And the production planning of the show is done by TMS Entertainment, as in the same show company that works on Case Close. So, and then here's a familiar scene, because it's Isekai. We have our characters in a classroom, which this makes this the third time that I've seen it where characters are summoned from a classroom. Though in the case of So Far So Well, they all got killed off there. So they're just relaxing, just having class. Don't know where the teacher is. This actually is the second time I come across where do not know where the teacher is. This also happened with, actually the third time this has happened in a row. First, Loner Life. Then it's My Intuition is Overpowered. And this show, no teacher. Yeah, teacher's not involved. Either teacher was out of the room at that point, or just simply just not there. And we see our main character, Akira, where he's reading a light novel on his phone. Like how I do it. A lot of light novels I read on my phone. As a matter of fact, just recently, I just read first book for Reborn as a Space Mercenary, and that has officially become my 800th light novel I've ever read. Yes, I have read 800 of these damn things. I read 800 of these books in 8 years. Yes, 800 books. Yes, I know, it's a lot. And yes, the show is based on a light novel, but I've read the manga for this thing. So, you see one of his classmates, check out the book, basically. Oh, it's an isekai. Yeah, as for what book he's reading, it's not very clear. It's just that he reads differently than I do it. I mean, I do it by simply reading it theater style, just doing that's how I do it. He does it by just scrolling. Yes, I do read manga on my phone, but not usually like novels. So, And then this weird magic circle just pops from the ceiling and the floor, and the whole class gets transported to another world. Now, this scene is very similar to the one I saw in Failure Frame, except that one they got someone with from a freaking Greyhound bus. And they do it. One of them does ask that question, like, "How the heck do you teleport here?" And then, by the way, the wizard here is voiced by Bruce Elliott. I'm like, what? Seriously, Bruce Elliott, who I just saw in My Dress Up Darling. Yeah, and once again, he's always voicing an old man because he loves doing old man voices. Though the youngest one I've ever seen him voice is probably Congreve Moore from Case Closed when he did the dub for a version of it when he was called Richard Moore. So, now this is similar to Failure Frame for this one, where they're all putting their hands on Crystal Ball and all to check their statuses. And one is like basically the caster. One member is like, oh, he's a hero because he's smart. And I'm like, wow, that's very much like Failure Frame, except you don't have an evil goddess here, who, by the way, the goddess in that show was hot, by the way. And we don't have her basically banishing the main character because he's got weak skills. Oh no, that does not happen here. Because Akira himself basically looks at his status, and when I see the screen here, I'm like, yeah, this has happened in many different isekais. This is, the whole status thing is very common. I think the first time I ever saw this status screen ever in an isekai was probably Death March Parallel Rhapsody. That's the first I remember basically this happening in. But generally put, this has happened. This is very, very standard. And apparently he maxed out Kasima, and it's like he watched his first episode. It's like this is basically like a half of a season in one episode. We see him. He doesn't use this crystal ball thing. He doesn't use it, which smart idea because they'll find out what he is. So he goes, something interesting going on. And of course, later when he finds out when we look at the study, like, don't have a look in the archives, which he does. And discovers, oh yeah, there are elves, all these other creatures, not just demons, there are other ones. And the whole thing of summoning because, oh, we need to kill the demons, that is 101 standard isekai, and usually the most common reason why. The battle of frickin' demons. Yes. Like, this is pretty much standard in every single isekai. But unlike in the case of My Isekai Life, where I saw one person basically criticize the main character, where he doesn't have much emotion, except basically for his slimes. Here, this guy is not exactly a very emotionless person. He doesn't seem like a flat character. It's like, so he has to see him a lot of the time, and one of the guards sees him. And of course, he introduces himself. He's very curious about Japan. He trains him for a while, one-on-one. He basically finds out his plan for a coup d'etat. Really good here. It's like lots of development in just the first episode. Like, wow. And we see him interacting with the guards. Like, that's interesting. And we also see him interacting with a mysterious blue-haired woman. Who this woman is? Don't really know. I do know Danny Chambers is in the show. Yes. Voicing a character named Leah Logan. Yeah, and then of course, basically, like after the training is completed, they basically go on a dungeon raid, because of course they do. Which this scene itself reminds me a lot of the first episode of Freya, except that one basically cuts all unnecessary stuff out. At least this time, you don't have the characters trying to murder the lead this time, which good on for doing that. Plus, now you're near some bridge and can die. So, then of course they battle, of course, some trolls, which one of the students accidentally summons more trolls by pushing a block in the wall, and then of course they go through their doorway, then you leave. Nope, more trolls, and then oh look, a smoke bomb. And the smoke bomb summons a Minotaur. And then, of course, Akira proceeds to use his old mini sword on it. Doesn't work, it breaks. And then, of course, the guy who's supposed to be the hero, he is going through a curse. And the person supposed to spell is still working on it. And then, of course, basically, where our knight basically... Okay, his name is Seiron. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned that apparently that they're not the first hero to come to this world. Apparently there was another hero who was the first hero summoned there, which I'm like, yeah, that's happened a couple times where people just randomly summon. So the episode ends with him about to perform some shadow magic on this Minotaur. But very good first episode. Got a lot of development in the first episode. A lot of story beats here. Like, very good. And it looks like we're going to see an elf, which I have confirmed this is a character voiced by Sarah Weinhoff, who will appear in episode 2. Because I heard she was confirmed to voice the character, but from what I heard, she was not going to appear in episode 1. But from the image from the trailer I saw, she's going to appear next week. And this season's been confirmed for 12 episodes. Yep, also, there's another show been confirmed for 12 episodes. One I have not heard yet. Yes. I have other shows on the air right now. The only ones, as of right now, I do not have a confirmed episode count for, is the final season of My Hero Academia. Rama Half, the second season of the show. Yeah, those two are the only ones that I know of that I do not have a confirmed episode count for. Yep, not really. Should be interesting, basically, for the many episodes, okay? So yeah, that's particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up, back to Solo Leveling. Okay, next video. Bye.